In what's become an all too familiar scene in modern Greece, the streets of historic Athens were marred by demonstrations tonight. Protesters marching, at least in part, against the visit of President Obama, the first American president to come to the country in 17 years. The unrest in stark contrast to the president's arrival ceremony, but in many ways a symbolic reflection of the unease here, especially about the U.S. role in Europe under a Trump presidency. Those concerns forcing Mr. Obama into the awkward role of ambassador for a man he once said was unfit for the presidency. And now the president is left fielding questions about whether or not he feels responsible for the rise of Donald Trump.
German police carrying out raids across 60 cities after watching the group for months. Hundreds of officers searched nearly 200 offices, mosques, and apartments in this operation.
They also took away documents including German copies of the Quran and leaflets which the group had distributed in public places. Now, authorities say the concern was not with the Quran itself, but members had misused their religion to spread extremist propaganda.
Immigrants and visitors from more than 24 countries were required to check in, be interviewed, fingerprinted, and monitored while they were in the U.S. Virtually all of those countries were predominantly Muslim.
Jack, so is it possible to assume that we can ever have secure communications again after what we've just seen with the election?
I think pure ultimate security is probably gone by the wayside.
First of all, how in the world was it that phone manufacturers had no idea about this pre-installed software on their phones?
Hey, Emma, great to see you again. You raise a great question because, in fact, not only does it collect the things you were talking about, the people behind it had built something that could also allow a hacker, if they wanted to use it maliciously, to install other applications that you didn't even authorize and have higher privileges on your phone than even you do.
True intro describing what this software does. You're the expert here, and tell us again what kind of information this software was collecting and where, to whom it was being sent, and you know, why this kind of software even exists.
Well, speaking to the people who are watching, it's who you are, where you are, who you're talking to, what messages, text messages, not just which ones you're sending, but the content of them. So even pictures or videos that might be included, the geolocation, what places you're going to, and also it could be installing things on your phone that you didn't even authorize, like applications you never downloaded. So it's basically owning you.
In ruins. We're getting our first glimpse of the ancient Iraqi city, now leveled by ISIS. Located just south of Mosul, the 3,000-year-old city was once the Assyrian capital, an empire that stretched across the Middle East. Nimrud was one of the richest archaeological sites in the region, home to relics like the famous statues of winged bulls with human faces, which stood at the entrance to the palace of the Assyrian king. Now there's little left. ISIS overran Nimrud back in 2014 and later released this video of the city's destruction. What they didn't blow up with explosives, they literally tore apart by hand, dismantling Nimrud's ancient artifacts with sledgehammers and power tools, destroying symbols the extremist group considers idolatrous. UNESCO has condemned the city's destruction, even calling it a war crime. On Sunday, Iraqi forces recaptured Nimrud, their tanks and armoured vehicles rolling into the city as part of the continuing offensive on Mosul. Iraqi officials are now surveying the damage. The before and after comparison is striking. Ancient murals and statues lie shattered. What was a palace is now reduced to rubble.